And now you guys, you are going to hear an amazing speaker.
To get started, I need a guy volunteer from the audience. I need to think, okay, that'll work. Come on down, give him a hand, come on up. Come on up now. What's your name? Phil. Phil, good to meet you, Phil. Everyone say hi, Phil. Hi. Phil. Now, Phil, you know what my talk's about, right?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. Wow. Yeah, Phil, this is the sex talk. Yeah. So we have to cover certain, the talk. So we got to cover certain issues like how far is too far to go with the girl on a date, you know, and stuff like that. So what Phil and I are going to do here is he and I are actually going to show you guys how far is too far to go on a date. All right. And in order to do this, I'm going to be the guy. Phil's going to be the girl. Okay. Now, as you can tell, now Phil is not a very pretty girl. But you want to be a pretty girl? Okay, well, let's get you prettied up a little bit. So let's start with this one. I should throw that on. He'll be pretty. It's like a girl mullet. Yeah. There you go. That's hey. That's Hannah Montana. Now I've never dated anyone named Phil before, so we got to give you a name change. So Phyllis, that's pretty good. That's sharp, Phyllis. So now Phyllis and I, we decided to go for a date, right? So we go for a date at the Grand Canyon. So let's say this is the Grand Canyon, and I started thinking, well, how far do you think I'd get my beloved Phyllis here to the edge of the Grand Canyon without actually throwing him off the Grand Canyon, and him, her, and whatever. But there's only one way to find out how far we can go, so I've got to pick you up into my arms, all right? Okay? So you hold on to this. I'll get you. So there we go. Okay. Now how far can we go to the edge? Let's see. Can we go further? Come on. A little further? Should I drop him? Yes. Okay, no one drop you. Take a seat, give him a hand. Good job, Phil. Thank you very much. Good man. So what's the point of that whole thing? The point of that's basically this, that no guy would take the girl he loves to a dangerous place and say, well, how close can you get to killing her? You know, usually we don't ask, but when I was in high school, this is basically the question we had about girls. Well, how far can I go with that girl? Can we do this together? Can we do that together? And we'd have to hear these sex talks, where someone would get up there and they'd be like, sex is bad, sex is dirty, you're gonna die. And it was always about guilt and fear. It's like they never just sat us down and said, here's the difference between love and lust. Here's how you know when you really love a girl, and here's how you know when you're getting used. They didn't make it clear. All they tried to do is scare us and give us a bunch of rules. But you know that doesn't work. It's like this. A couple of months ago, I walk into my kitchen. Now my wife and I have a couple little kids. They're all in diapers. I walk in the kitchen. My oldest son is standing in the kitchen, and he's licking a fly swatter. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm like, that's nasty. You don't do that. And imagine if he said, you know, why, Dad? Why should I lick the fly swatter? And imagine I told him, dude, you're going to get Ebola virus and die. Like, dude, you think he'd care? He'd be like, tastes good to me. And I go into our kids' playroom, and our 2-year-old son is sitting on the floor, and his face is like smeared with all this white paste. It's up his nose and on his tongue, and I'm like, dude, what did you get into? I'm looking around, sitting next to him on the floor is this big old half-empty tube of diaper rash ointment. And I'm like, dude, like, you don't eat that. I'm like, that's butt cream. You don't eat that stuff. And can you imagine if he said, no, well, why, Dad? You know, why shouldn't I eat butt cream? And I told him I got rules in this house. No eating butt cream is one of my rules. The kids, they just wouldn't care. But instead of like scaring them and giving them rules, let's say I just went in the fridge, I pulled out some Cool Whip and popsicles and said, hey, isn't this what you guys really want? They drop the counterfeits that don't satisfy because they'd see the real thing. Now in high school, I never saw the real thing of authentic love. All I saw was the counterfeit of lust. All I thought God cared about my love life is making sure I didn't go too far with girls. But to prove to you, God actually has a plan for your love life. I was in Boston a while ago. I met a guy named Kevin. He fell in love with a girl. They decided to get married. They go to church, get ready for the wedding. The priest is going through all their paperwork, and he's like, hey, look at that. You guys got baptized in the same church when you were babies. And they're like, oh, that's cool. We didn't know. That's a cool coincidence. He looks closer. He goes, wait a minute. Huh. You guys got baptized on the same day in the same church as babies. They went to their parents' old photo album, sure enough found a picture of the two babies getting baptized together years before they'd ever meet again. So you never know what God's up to. You might be sitting right next to your future spouse right now. Huh? Bishop's taken. I didn't think though that I didn't think God had like some big plan for my love life. So kind of relationships I got into in high school tended to be very physical, very fast. And I remember in high school, I hooked up with this one girl and we're doing stuff and she stopped and she was like, Jason, you're not gonna leave me like the other guys, are you? I was like, no. And she was like, oh, you're so sweet. And I was like, okay, anyway. And we did things and came to the point and I had to ask myself, okay, should I give this girl my virginity? And I thought, well, I've known her for 3 days, and I could hear this voice in my heart that just said, Jason, this gift is not for her, it's for me, please wait for me. And we cooled things down, and I was able to hold on to my virginity. I know some of you are virgins, some of you are not. Frankly, I don't care what's happened in the past. I mean, I care. For those of you who are virgins, I say good for you. I have right here what's considered to be the most comprehensive sex research ever done in America. It's about 700 pages, and what they found on page 503 is that people who get married as virgins have a divorce rate that's about 70% lower than those who won't wait for marriage. Now some of you maybe think, oh, it's great, Jason, but look, I'm not a virgin. Or Jason, I had my virginity taken from me. Does that mean I'm gonna have a messed up marriage? If you're like me, you're so sick of all the divorce going on. We were at a high school in Washington. After the talk, a junior came up to me. He goes, Jason, he goes, I know what you mean about divorce. He goes, Jason, my dad's on his 9th marriage. He's a high school junior, seeing his dad get 8 divorces. We're sick of this. Nobody in this room wants a divorce. So how do you avoid it? I'd say one way, love your spouse before you even meet that person. What I mean is this. We're at a high school here in Chicago, and after the talk, this guy raised his hand. He goes, okay, Jason, he goes, your talk was fun, but can we get specific? I said, well, sure. And he goes, well, I want to know exactly how far I can go with my girlfriend. I said, that's a fair question. What do you want to do with her? And he was like, I was like, okay. I go, we're not in 3rd grade, mature, specific. What do you want to do? He's like, really? Cool. Can we do this and this? And he went through a whole list of sexual favors. And I said, that's charming. Slow down. Pick one. You know, and he's thinking about it. And he's like, okay, I got it. And he picked something that's pretty sexual. Wasn't technically sex, but close. I said, okay, I'm going to have you answer your own question. I go, do you want to get married one day? He goes, yeah, I'm going to get married. I said, that's cool. So if you're going to get married, that means that your future wife, she's out there somewhere right now, isn't she? And for the first time in his like 15-year life, he thought about his future bride. And he said, yeah, she is out there, cool. And I go, but let's say she doesn't live here in Chicago. Let's say she lives where I live in California. School's just getting out right now, and she's coming home from class with her boyfriend, who's a guy that you are never going to meet. And he's got his arm around your future wife. And he's saying, baby girl, I love you so much. I'm always going to be here for you. And she's like, oh, you're so sweet. And he walks her home and he sits her on his couch. She's like, hey, baby girl, you feeling fine? Because you looking fine. She's like, stop. I said to this guy, I was like, man, I go, dude, you know what's going on that couch, don't you? He's like, yeah. I said, that guy's emotionally manipulating your future wife into doing that sexual thing with him. Trying to make her think that if she gives him that, he'll like her more. When he's just using her more. I go, does that bug you? And he's like, ew. No. I go, really, it doesn't bother you? He looked at the floor. He's like, no, I don't care. I go, really, that guy doing that with your future wife doesn't bother you? He was like, The guy next to him in class was like, I'd be ticked off. And I broke him up and I said, look, if you don't want someone doing it with the person that you're going to marry, then set the same standards for yourself. And this is not like a condemnation of any of us. It's a calling to a better kind of love. Like, I'm not going to stand in front of the guys in the audience and say, you have to be like me. Because that's a joke. Because if you're a guy and I'm a guy, we're the same. Every guy in here has this temptation to lust, but then we have a desire to love, and there's a tension going on. What I want you girls to realize is that the guys you're sitting next to in here, all of us have been lied to about what it means to be a man. We're supposed to learn about manhood from our dads. Do you girls understand? Some of us haven't even seen our dads since we were 3. Even if we have a great dad, we still get lied to about manhood everywhere else.